So when Brian Dunn asked me to go to services, I went into panic mode. One, because I didn't know anything about services. And two, I know 3 colleagues that went to services and I don't even know where they are today. They pretty much disappeared, and I mean that honestly. So now I'm in fear that I must have done something really wrong after 20 years on the retail side. So I called Brian Dunn, the CEO at the time. I said, Brian, why are you sending me to services? What have I done wrong? He said, you've done nothing wrong. And I said, so why are you desiring for me to go there? He said, one big reason is I want you to integrate the culture of retail, the leadership skills into both the services arena and change the mindset that services is an or, not an and. Or is it an and or is it an or? Well, the obvious answer is an and. Providing solutions for customer is an and or. In that process, I said, but I know nothing about services, Brian. His response says, that's exactly why I want you to go to services, because you know nothing about services. So in that moment in time, I removed my lenses around what the world looked like in services, and I decided to become a student of services, to truly get under the blanket and learn what services was all about. There was a lot of discoveries in that process. For those of you who've experienced at one time or another, 10 years ago, what services was like at Best Buy, I would say that it would be a shame to say it was Best Buy. Now, in that process, I started to become a real student about understanding what service is, what services should be, and what it isn't. See, we all have biases about what we think is the best service solution you have for the customer. Instead of putting the customer at the center and inquiring from that consumer, what is it really that the customer is asking for? So if you're willing to put yourself in a position of a student and you start to learn, then you now have a responsibility to give back. So how do you give back? How are you going to teach your personal life experiences or in the business sectors back to those individuals? We call in the world of retail a virtual teaching cycle. So as I started to understand and learn, there were some things that I knew we had to get done really quickly. Oh, and by the way, in a very humble sense, I'll tell you that I'd love to take credit for what we did, but it wasn't I that did it. What we did was we started to evaluate people. We started to recruit. We started to attract. Then we had to train. And then how you retain them, because now you're invested in them. And in that process, I was part of the Geek Squad acquisition. And Robert Stevens, the founder of Geek Squad, will tell you that he acquired Best Buy. But we acquired Geek Squad. Now, I will tell you this, that I'd love to tell you that I could take credit for what happened at Geek Squad, but I can't. Because what I knew I had to do was I had to surround myself with great people, great leaders, people with tenacity and fire in the belly, that every day they came to work, they wanted to solve the customer's problems in that real moment in time. And by the way, it's a $4.5 billion business today for Best Buy. And I would love to take credit for that, but I can't. The credit goes to those who I recruited, who I attracted, who I invested in, who truly put the time in. And then I retired from Best Buy after 27 years. Imagine that. Now you're probably wondering, gee, Armando, now I know why you lost your hair. This is a choice, right? This is truly a choice. I shaved my head because I choose to. But for those who are thinking, similar to what Michelle said, I'm probably the oldest gentleman in the room today. I'll be 62 in two months, right? So retail and services and entrepreneurship can keep you young. Never surrender. Never surrender. Keep playing the game. There's always space, but you have to have the fire in your belly. You have to be tenacious, and you want to be part of something that's bigger than the whole. So how do you act like a franchise owner even if you're not? You're doing it already. You're here. You've invested your time. Right? Time is money. So how do you want to deploy your time? How do you want to deploy the people you engage with? Right? You're making an investment. One of my philosophies is one team, one dream. Society has conditioned us that in order for us to win, someone has to do what? Lose. My philosophy is we win when we win as a collective, collaborative group of leaders. See, our industry is so fragmented and so disrespected that this is the first time anyone has the audacity to get inside the space and say, we're going to change how the manufacturers treat us. Right? Enough of this, we can't service XYZ manufacturing. Because there's talent in the street today, it's raw talent. So one team, one dream. We win when we all collectively win. We have to march down that alley. But it can't be at the expense of someone else losing. And when you think about, well, I can't give away these competitive secrets. You know what? I would love to give you my competitive secrets. If it makes you better and enables me to move faster and us move faster, then it's worth the investment. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. Investing in our people. Believing in your people. How can you operate if you don't believe in the people that are working with you? Oh, and by the way, in my vernacular, I've never used someone works for me. We work together. We work as a team. That changes the dynamics. You got to have goals. I think we heard that earlier today. We've heard it multiple times. You got to have a goal. You got to know where you're going, right? It's your compass. If you're going north, you got to know if you're heading the right direction. Thank God for GPS these days. You have to engage in your local municipalities and communities. You can't just take. What are you giving back? What does your brand stand for in your communities today? If you talk to the shop owner in a Kroger or in a Winn-Dixie or in a pharmacy store and they say, what is your brand? Can they articulate it? Can they talk about a specific time and place they had an experience that they said, that brand resonates with me? What's the one brand that resonates with you all right now if you think of a sneaker? Nike. Why? Because they're everywhere. They've revolutionized the industry, and everybody's always followed them. Adidas follows them. Puma follows them. And although they would argue that they don't, but they do, right? You have to hold each other accountable. That's not just in your stores, but in your communities and in your neighborhoods. Hold each other accountable for what you're giving them and what they're giving you. Be present. Don't be afraid to go to those communities and those parks where those young kids today are looking for mentorship. They're our future. We can't just take. We got to show the communities that we want to give them back. And believe me, when they recognize that, they will shop in your stores because they want to give back to you. Recognize and acknowledge. Repairs done right the first time. That was one that haunted me at BBY for many years of my 7 last years at Best Buy. Because you have one chance, you've heard that multiple times today, you have one chance to get it right. Customers do have choices. They want it when they want it, how they want it, and where they want it. Got a couple of people that are doing that already. Then you have to protect your brand. And then there's a concept of investment. I think you heard a little bit about that from a retail's perspective. So you have to attract, you have to recruit, you have to train, and you have to retain. The first 3 aren't too hard, but you know when's the best time to recruit? When you don't need anybody. You have to have a pipeline of talent in your channel every single day. And that should be a challenge for every one of us. Who's in your pipeline? Who are you recruiting? Because the last thing you ever want to do is hire someone because you're desperate. And we're all guilty of that. I've done it myself, right? And then how do you retain them? How are you teaching them? How are you investing in them? Are you connecting with them personally? Are you asking them about their families? Or is it just business? How do you bring it all together where they now resonate with you and your family? That maybe they're at the cookout with you and you get to speak to them about a specific goal that you want to share with them. Now you start to shift the mindset of that individual or those individuals. Remember, in my vernacular, I've never used they work for me. We work together. You got to believe in them. You have to unleash. You have to empower. You have to trust. Some of us are type A, and we want it all right here. And don't make a move, and if you're going to breathe, please check with me. Unleash. You'll be surprised what some of these individuals, text or otherwise, will do in your absence if you allow them to. If you convince them that their decision dollar is our decision dollar, they'll start thinking like a franchise owner real quickly. But it's got to start with us. You have to empower. Don't give them all the answers. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to have all the answers. It's okay to show the human side of us that says we don't have to have it all. But together we'll find the answers. And they'll see a human side of you that'll change how they view the world. They'll change how they think about you as a leader in their store, in your store, or stores, as we all aspire to someday have. And you have to trust. I know some of us, if not most of us, have cameras. I say keep them. But don't hire anybody you don't trust. Because if you think they're going to do something wrong, they've already done something wrong. And the real moment of truth is when you're not watching is what that individual's doing. That's the real moment of truth. Try it. Make the test and see if it passes litany. Establish daily goals. They got to be specific. They got to be measurable. They got to be attainable. This is all elementary to every one of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. But there's two components that I heard multiple times today. That's also up there. You got to manage productivity. You got to manage your biggest expense, which is labor. Right? You can't just have bodies sitting there or standing there. They've got to be productive. You got to be part of the essence of educating them why that's so important. Don't be afraid to show them your P&L. If you're making money, let them know what you're making. It's okay. Make them part of it. Join in on them. They may be your franchise owners later on. Okay? Engaging local municipalities. Give back. I've touched on that. Flint, Michigan, I don't know if you heard the news, they had poisoned waters everywhere, right? So our local leaders got involved and volunteered to bring hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bottled waters. Now you may ask, gee, that sounds like a lot of work. But if you want to be part of the community, these are some of the things you have to do. Join the local Chamber of Commerce. Be part of those sessions. So it costs $300. What's the return on investment capital here? Okay? Partner with your local retailers. We have some wireless friends here, some wireless partners. We should all know every single wireless community partners in our neighborhoods where our stores are at. And believe me, they want us. They need us. The world is transitioning. Technology is transitioning. The local carriers want us to help them out. And by the way, when a product cost to repair exceeds the value, then the right thing to do is send them right back to the carrier. Let them buy another phone. Right? Don't sell with your pocket, sell with your heart. Earn that consumer for life, if it's true that you're trying to acquire that customer. Everyone is a potential customer. Could be that wireless store manager. Could be a potential customer of yours, okay? Create an environment of ideating. Do you have think tanks, or is it just a drill? Create think tanks where people are coming in with ideas. Is there a suggestion box where people have a voice, where they're going to be heard, where you could have a conversation with them? It's mind-boggling the ideas that people will come up with if you enable that environment and you allow them. What about innovating? You just saw renditions of a great, beautiful retail store. Nice job, by the way. Very nice, right? Beautiful stores. Do you think those ideas didn't come from a group of people that said, here's how we think this should operate? Absolutely. Not one single individual could solve for it. And there isn't one single individual here in this room today that can solve it. But together, collectively, collaboratively, we can make a change. Create the next generation of leaders. Don't be afraid if someone is smarter than you in your store. Who cares? You don't have to have the answers. Who cares? Don't be afraid to hire somebody that's even better than you. In fact, the most successful leaders in the world today is because they've had someone next to them that's smarter than them. I can tell you right now, I'm not the smartest or brightest crayon in the crayon box, but I make sure that someone smarter than me is always next to me. So if I don't know something, I can ask them. And if they don't know, together we go on a journey and we learn together. You have to recognize performance. You have to acknowledge. You have to recognize growth. You have to reward performance. And here's kind of what I call the naughty side of it. You got to course correct. If your business is going south, you can't stand there and go, well, maybe next month will be better. And if it happens again, well, maybe the third month it'll get better. You have to have tough conversations. And by the way, not just with people that are working with you, hold the mirror in front of yourself and ask yourself that million-dollar question. Am I doing everything in my power to change the direction of my business today? Or am I the one that's impeding the business? Is it me? Or is it the conditions economically in the city or in the county or in the community? Hold the mirror in front of you and ask yourself, are you the biggest blockade? But you got to course correct, which is kind of, I call, the ugly part of our business, but it has to happen. Repairs done right the first time. This is always a challenge, right? Every one of us, I think, aspire to do that repair that one time first. First of all, it's an economic challenge for us if it's not, and secondarily, at the second time you have to repair it, you're more than likely lost that customer. Sure, they'll bring it back, and sure, you'll have to repair it once again, but you're more than likely going to lose that customer. Now, ask yourselves, are you truly measuring customer satisfaction? Because if you're not, I would ask you to ask customers, how was your experience? I'm not telling you to have someone else do it. As a business owner, as a franchise owner that could be thinking like a franchise owner, would call that customer themselves and say, Mrs. Henderson, how was that experience for you today? Mr. Henderson, how was that experience for today? And what could I have done different for you? And you'll be surprised. Because if you don't get that insight from them, guess who's going to learn that insight from them real quickly? Their next door neighbor, their family, their cousins, and now you're starting to lapse customer. And we know what it costs to acquire a customer. We also know what it costs to reacquire a customer. We don't want to get into that P&L side of the business either. Customers, those are their expectation. I'm not going to drain this one, but you heard inventory management is key. You have to manage the inventory. If you don't have the right inventory, it'll suck the life right out of your business. Because that side of the business is so volatile. The prices are so on a roller coaster day in and day out that if you're not there in the right time, you could lose your shirt. You've heard about only one opportunity. Customers do have choices. They don't have one choice, they have thousands of choices. E-commerce has made it so difficult that brick and mortars today are trying to figure ways out to earn that customer back. What are we doing about that? How do we find a fine space for both e-commerce and brick and mortar? And by the way, what Staymobile has is we have the hybrid. We have a repair location with a nice storefront, right? Which kind of helps us really catch the consumer on both sides of the segment, both the front end and the back end. Your brand comes to life when you do some of the things that you've heard today. You got to establish a reputation, and then how are you measuring market share? It isn't just some revenue, incremental revenue. How are you measuring market share? Where are your consumers coming from? I think we heard our retail partners talk about customer segments. How are we understanding where they're coming from? If you don't know, then you're losing an opportunity because you can't cater to what you don't know. Protect your brand. That's customer loyalty. How are we measuring what we call share of wallet? Do you have 1% share of wallet? Do you have 5%? Do you have 10% share of wallet? And if you don't, who does? Understand who has that market share. And this is the last piece. This is our personal concept of investments. If you're going to put your decision dollar anywhere, invest in professionalism. Professionalism could be how do the people in the store look and feel, right? Invest in standards. Isn't that why we're here? We want some respect because we want some standards. There are a lot of people out there that are just absolutely doing the wrong thing for consumers on a day-to-day basis. Invest in financial acumen. You'd be surprised how many times I've asked an individual in our stores, do you know what whack means on a P&L? Well, some of them think, well, if you're from New York like me, yeah, I know what whack is. You whack them, right? Well, no, it's the weighted average cost of capital. Invest in explaining to the people, to the employees, to yourselves, what does a P&L mean? How do I make money? Not 10 years from now, but how do you break even 60, 90, 120 days into it? Okay? Invest in your customer satisfaction. Boy, if you don't know how your customers feel after the experience, you've missed a great opportunity. A great, great opportunity. Then invest in your brand. If you're going to put your decision dollars, invest in your brand. What does your brand mean? And what do you want it to mean? Not just today, but 30 days from now, 30 years from now, when you're passing the businesses on to your children and to your grandchildren and to the second and third generation of families because your brand means something. Okay? Stay mobile. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions from anybody? Yes.
What's the last book you read and what is the one you're reading currently?
Great question. So I'm not going to BS you. The real last book I read on leadership was Jack Welch. And here's why. Because he was relentless in the spirit of what he did. You know, Jack Welch took out 20% of his bottom performers year in and year out. Now, we in today's society will go, well, that's brutal, right? But I think there's another way to do that, and that is that it's better to lead with honey than with an iron fist. Because there's some millennials in here, they just won't pay attention to us anymore. They just won't. That kind of leadership doesn't work anymore, okay? But that was a while ago. Any other questions? I know you're dying to go on breaks. Yes?
How did you end up at Staymobile?
Huh?
How did you end up at Staymobile?
Great question. So after I retired and moved to Palm Beach, Florida, which is probably why you're wondering where this kid gets his tan from, Brian Huddle and I worked at Best Buy together. And Brian Huddle, who is currently the CEO at Staymobile, toyed with the notion of getting me out of retirement because he said I was starting to look old and he wanted me to get back into the swing of things. And so I've committed to him to at least 2 years because I didn't plan on working at 62. You know, I thought by 62, you know, but I did some consulting work kind of in the interim, and I'm not going to do any plugging of my business because I've kind of abandoned it to create an environment with Staymobile of 100% commitment to the enterprise today. And I believe we'll be 200-300 stores in 3 years, quite frankly. Yeah. Yes?
Do you have any more retired friends?
Actually, I do. But they made more money than I did, and they are on the golf course right about now. Good question. Yes?
How do you guys differentiate yourself from the other brands?
Well, I heard multiple times today that they offer lifetime warranty. So do we. We do sell warranties on used devices, and we have underwriters. I know there's some companies out there that sell warranties, and they're not underwritten. Ours is underwritten and bonded. We also serve and cater to K-12s across the country, and we're also inside universities across the country, serving students enrollments of 40,000 and above, and their faculty students and the faculty as well. And we do a la carte, where we go to their school, we pick up the devices, we call it do the sweep, and once a week we'll either do the 5th grader, 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, 9th grader, and all above. And then in colleges, which is kind of the sweet spot for us, some of us that have gone to college, you know that Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon, you're going to break your device. alcohol induces that emotion. So either you drop your phone in a, in a tank, or you drop it in a football field, something's gonna happen to your device. And so that's kind of our, Friday through Monday is crazy for us with our college students. The other thing is with college students, for some of us who are parents with kids in college, we give them credit cards. So they're gonna spend 2.5 more with their credit card than a normal spender would. So they're spending money on the credit cards that all their mom and dad is doing is just replenishing their account. So that's a sweet spot for us as well. And then we have, at a very high level, some real strategic due diligence that we're doing across the country in terms of, who we really want to be from a branding perspective. And, of course, for some of us, we know that there's the whole reverse logistics side of the business that, we've talked briefly about it, the whole refurbishing side, the whole trade-in side, the whole parts harvesting side. So there's a business in the business that, quite frankly, no one really in our industry is doing right. So maybe together we could get it right. Yeah, another question, I'm sorry.
Follow up on that. What do you look for in a franchise owner, and what demographic do you look for when you're looking to build a station?
So first, we do a deep dive around the community. Do we have high schools? Are there any competitors within that, quarter mile? What about the income bracket? And do we want to service that income bracket? And for some of you who may or may not know, we're in 17 Walmart locations right now. And with the potential of, maybe 30, 40 more. I mean, I don't know. I hear a rumor that there's a competitor that's in Walmart, but I don't even deem them as a competitor. I say, let's join forces. Let's learn from each other. Let's grow this business. Let's grow this industry, right? And let's explore it together. Because my CEO may get a little iffy about that, but someone had another question here, and then I'm good. Yes?
How many corporate stores do you have then?
So we're about 60-40 right now, 60-40, and we're doing a due diligence around multiple at one time. There's a strong interest across the country. And I say, strong interest meaning some are very inquisitive, some of it is more fact-finding, and, we just tell the story. We tell the story, but we've been around since 2006. We started in a mattress store behind a mattress, and by the way, it was a mattress store that we were doing repair devices in the back, and we never saw one mattress go out. So a lot of phone repairs, but we never saw one mattress go out. So I don't know how to explain that one. Okay, thank you so much. With a lot of respect and a lot of humility, thanks for letting me and allowing me to be part of this. I'm giving some time back to this entire group. Michelle, thank you so much as well, okay?